Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 316. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Thank you for joining me. Have a great podcast for you guys today. I'm going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. We're still talking about the Democratic Party, talking about the 2024 election. And I've been explaining what's going on with the Democratic Party, the cover up with Joe Biden, and his cognitive and physical decline leading up into the election last year, how the Democratic Party refused to have a primary and let people like Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, even RFK back at that time wanted to challenge Joe Biden, and they refused to hold debates and allow Joe Biden to be challenged in a real way. And then he's exposed during the debate in June. And then Kamala Harris is forced on the party because she's a black woman. We've been talking about all that, and we've been highlighting this. Democratic Party they have a lot of problems right now. But what I believe is one of their biggest problems is this problem with identity politics. So we're going to get back into talking about identity politics and this corrosive problem in the Democratic Party today. I want to start with this clip. This is a quote from the book Original Sin, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's new book that everybody is, they're doing tons of interviews and promotion of this book. I don't know how well the book is doing, but everybody's talking about it. And this is a quote from David Plouffe, who says right there, Harris's senior campaign manager, David Plouffe, and a quote from him in the book Original Sin. And he's one of the few people that went on record. A lot of these quotes in their book come from unnamed sources, but David Plouffe is on the record because his credibility is shot after the 2024 election. This guy had a stellar record as a guru before the 2024 election. He was Barack Obama's campaign manager in 2028, which is, I really don't understand why this guy was considered a guru, because he helped Obama win in 2028. What people need to understand is what David Plouffe did in 2028 wasn't that impressive. Anyone who won the Democratic nomination in 2008 was going to win the presidency because Bush had so damaged the Republican brand. Just like the Democratic brand is trash right now, the Republican in 2008, at the end of Bush's presidency, when we are still in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you're in the middle of this financial crisis, and the country was in a really bad spot at that time. And Bush and the Republican Party had run things for 8 years, and they had destroyed the Republican brand. When George Bush left office in 2009, hands it over to his cousin, his approval rating was 28%. So it's not I don't know why this guy, after David Plouffe helped Obama win and ran his campaign in 2008, he goes to England, and then he runs David Cameron's campaign, and David Cameron is elected prime minister. So I guess that's why they consider him he was considered the guru before 2024. And then, he's not considered the guru anymore because he attached himself to Kamala Harris and her failed candidacy. But he goes on record in this book, Original Sin, and they talk about it on Meet the Press over this weekend. I want you to take a listen to Kristen Welker read this quote from David Plouffe.
Plouffe says if Biden had decided in 2023 to drop out, we would have had a robust primary. Whitmer, Pritzker, Newsom, Buttigieg, Harris, and Klobuchar would have run. Warnock and Shapiro would have kicked the tires. Maybe Mark Cuban or a business person of some sort. 20% of governors and 30% of senators would have thought about it. We would have been eminently stronger.
So David Plouffe and what he's doing, this quote that Welker is reading, and she's got Warnock, Senator Warnock. I don't know who would vote for him for president. So, but you got to put him in there again. Got to put a black man in there. He put Kamala Harris. Look at the list in there. Put Kamala Harris in there. You know, Whitmer. You know, Whitmer should have been on the ticket. You know, that's who Biden wanted to pick in the beginning in 2020 to run with, but she was too white for the ticket. And so what Plouffe is doing here in this quote, he's criticizing Biden and saying this is Biden's fault for choosing to win. No, this is the Democratic Party's fault for choosing not to allow anyone to run against Biden. Not that Biden chose to run again. It was that the DNC refused to have debates. The DNC refused to host a real primary and allow someone to come in and challenge Joe Biden. If he wanted to run, let him run. And then funny because Joe Biden's, he made an appearance over the weekend and they asked him about this. And he says, well, some of these people says, you should have gotten out. He says, well, why didn't they run against me? Well, the reason they didn't run against you is because the party didn't support anyone running against you. The party said that they're not going to have debates. You moved the first primary to South Carolina where you had the black support and the black vote. They did all that to rig it. But what I want to ask the question is, so David Plouffe is saying that if Biden would have done this, made the decision in 2023, we would have been able to have this robust primary and pick our best candidate. Well, Biden didn't do that, and the party refused to host debates. But when Biden is exposed in June and he gets out, all these people could have still gotten in. Whitmer could have gotten in. Pritzker could have gotten in. And we've been talking about in the last podcast how everybody's, after Joe Biden endorses that Sunday, they have the Zoom call that night with the 40,000 black women. And these 40,000 black women, or this Zoom call with these black women has been going on since 2020. They're organized. They're ready to line up behind Kamala Harris. And the very next day after this Zoom call, Pelosi endorses and Schumer endorses and Clyburn endorses. All these people could have gotten in. Whitmer could have gotten in. Pritzker could have gotten in. Newsom still could have gotten in. Buttigieg still could have gotten in the race after. I mean, so yes, Biden didn't leave an opening by getting out of the race before the primary, and none of those people wanted to challenge him. It's on them. And that's what Biden is saying now. He came out and said, why didn't they run against me? Well, they didn't run against you because they couldn't run against you. Because the power of the black woman that forced you to put Kamala Harris on the ticket in 2020, they would have destroyed anyone who ran against you or who would have tried to replace you after you dropped out in June. And what's her name again? I forget. Edie is her last name. Remember what they said in this clip when they're talking about this Win with Black Women Zoom call, that it was only black women, that it was black women running everything, and it was for the advancement of black women.
In 2020, she created Win with Black Women, a virtual network that started meeting every Sunday during the pandemic via Zoom. The goal, support and advance the policy agenda of black women.
So support and advance the reason that these women were gathering on these Zoom calls going back to 2020 was to support and advance the policy agenda of not the black family, not black people in general, not the country, not the Democratic Party, to support the advancement of the policy agenda of black women. And I want to state this, that because I think that I need to state this, that I don't have a problem with black women. I don't have a problem with women in general. I am completely against all racial superiority, all racial superiority. I don't care if it's white supremacy. I don't care if it's black supremacy. I don't care if it's Jewish supremacy. I am against, I reject all forms of racial superiority. I think that it's foolish. I think it's stupid. And I think that racial superiority that it harms humanity, that if you look at the total potential output of what humanity could achieve and what we're operating on right now, there's a huge deficit. And I think that this racial superiority and focusing on these racial divisions and demographic divisions is harming the output of humanity, not just one race. The output of us as a species in general is being harmed by the divisions that are being focused on with these racial issues and breaking people up into these little groups, which is what happened after this Zoom call. These ladies had this Zoom call that Sunday night, and that inspired these other groups in the Democratic Party to break themselves up into little groups. That they weren't this cohesive army going against Donald Trump. It was all these little groups, like Black women's group, the white women's group, the Black men's group, the white men's group, the gay guys group, the all these demographic issues, this identity politics, and this is what is corrosive in the Democratic Party. I am also against Marxist feminism, and I don't care who the Marxist feminism is coming from. If it's coming from a black face or a white face, I am against Marxist feminism. And a large part, that's why, we played this clip where the woman is holding the sign. The white woman is holding the sign with the trust black women. She's holding the sign saying trust black women. And then when Brandon, he confronts her, he says, should we trust all black women? She says, yes, all black women. He says, even the black women that voted for Trump? And then she's stuck because let's watch this again, because she didn't know what to say when he says, should we trust the black women that voted for Trump too? No, she doesn't want to trust those black women because those black women are likely not Marxist feminists. The reason she only wants to promote the black women who think like her is because she's a Marxist feminist, and she knows that putting black women out front that are Marxist feminists, that the black woman helps to advance Marxist feminism. And so not all black women, she doesn't feel like we should trust all black women, only the black women that advance her ideology and what she believes in, which is Marxist feminist. I love black women. I love all women. I just don't like Marxist feminism. So I'm not attacking black women. I'm not attacking women. I'm attacking their ideology. And listen to what she says. What does this sign
mean to you?
Black women are probably the least respected in America. Their voices aren't heard. Their issues aren't paid attention to. Many white women look beyond their own personal interests, and they leave black women out of the conversation. And I think America needs to change about that.
What are we not trusting them to do right now?
How to care for our country, how to care for each other, how to stand up and fight for things that aren't right.
Millions of black women voted for Trump. Should we trust them?
And the answer is no. The answer is no. We shouldn't trust them because they are not interested in advancing your Marxist feminist ideology. So no, you can't advance those beautiful black women who voted for Trump. Only the black women that supported the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris. This is a huge problem in the Democratic Party and it's a huge problem in the black community too, that this Marxist feminist ideology makes black women feel that they are on an island, that they're in this, by themselves, and that they have to go out and promote candidates and promote policies that advance the single black woman, I look at this picture and notice how the black woman, 92% of 6%, how this image went viral after the election, that it's only women by themselves on the roof of this building watching the world burn, that there's no black men up there with them. It's only the black woman that they're, and that's why even though the total population of blacks in the country, according to the 2020 census is a little bit over 12%. But I focus on the 6% because that's how they see themselves. They see themselves separate. And even though the majority of black men still voted for Kamala Harris, not as many as voted for Obama, not as many as voted for Biden. And like I told you in the last podcast, is that if you look at the trend, that ever since Obama in 2008, that the trend has been steadily going down, that black men have been not supporting Democrat candidates, from Obama to Clinton to Biden and to Harris, that the trend is down with black men. It's down a little bit with black women, but not as much. So they see themselves as separate from black men, that they are an island unto themselves, and they have to advance, candidates and policies and an agenda that is specific to them, not the black family, not the country as a whole, black women. And that's why a lot of people took offense to this statue when it was placed in Times Square a couple of weeks ago. The artist is a black British man, and he puts up these statues of black women. He's got tons of statues all over the world. And he was commissioned to put this one up in Times Square. And a lot of black people took offense to this, and they felt that this was, highlighting the single black woman and the matriarch of the black community, that this is inspiring the black mediocrity, is what a lot of people were offended by this statue. Now, who put this statue up? The art director there in Times Square is a white woman, likely a Marxist feminist. I would bet money that this woman that is responsible for putting up the single black woman monument, that I'd bet she's a Marxist feminist. I bet she is. But she is putting up the statue of the single black woman because this helps advance their Marxist feminist agenda. Now, somebody went on AI and they had AI generate this monument, and they said, these are black people saying that this is the monument that we wanted. These are probably the person who went on in AI and put this out, and then it went viral with a lot of people that are black conservatives, and they're saying, this is what we want. We want the nuclear family. We don't want the black woman to be by herself, dependent on the government and dependent on voting for bigger government because government is her husband. Government is her daddy. Yeah, we don't want that, is what people were saying. So they had AI generated, and then the guy who posted this says AI fixed it because this is what people want. So I'm not voting for Marxist feminism. I don't care if it's being sold and promoted by a black face, by a white face. I don't support that. And I don't support racial supremacy. I don't care if it's white supremacy, black supremacy, Jewish supremacy, Asian supremacy. I don't care what it is. I don't believe in racial supremacy. So I don't believe that black women are just some natural great leaders. Some of them are. Some black women are brilliant. Some black women are great leaders and do a good job, but I don't think that it's inherent in them that because they're black women, that they are inherently good leaders, and we should push them out front and promote them in leadership and say that we need to trust black women. All black women? No, not all black women. The black women that agree with my point of view. So this was the event that they paid Oprah Winfrey to do during the campaign after Kamala Harris becomes the nominee, after Joe Biden drops out, and this is in July. This is the Edie woman who started the Win with Black Women Zoom call. So all of this came out of the Win with Black Women Zoom call, this Zoom call that they do with Oprah as well. that Win with Black Women Zoom call started all of this. That's the real reason, and that force that was set up behind Kamala Harris in those initial hours after Joe Biden had dropped out and even endorsed Kamala Harris. That's what solidified her as the candidate, and why no one else was going to jump in, and it would have been political suicide for them to jump in. But Oprah questions one of the gentlemen who started the White Dudes for Harris, which branched out of these Zoom calls. You had the Black Women for Harris Zoom call, White Women for Harris Zoom call, Black Men for Harris Zoom call, and then you had the White Dudes for Harris Zoom call. And Oprah questions the guy, one of the gentlemen who started the White Dudes for Harris, and I want you to listen to what he says here.
And so, as I said, that call from Win with Black Women is what inspired all the other groups. Mm-hmm. So White Dudes for Harris raised a bunch of money. Lead organizer Ross Morales Roquetto is here, right? Ross? And I hear that my producer told me you've been working in politics a long time, and that really for more than 20 years, and that you said you hadn't seen anything like this.
I haven't seen anything like this since 2008.
Yep.
When President Obama was elected. And when he got elected, it was about a newness and a hope. This time, it's about an exuberance and an excitement.
And joy, so much joy that Obama sold us hope, and then Kamala sold us joy. So he says that we haven't seen anything like this since 2008. And this is when Kamala Harris becomes the nominee. Her poll numbers she goes from being the least popular vice president in history, polling at, the lowest favorability since polling began, is what this article says, that she was so unpopular before Joe Biden dropped out. And then after Joe Biden drops out, boom, her poll numbers shoot up. She's just also so popular, and everyone loves her. And we haven't seen anything like this since Obama. Well, this guy was right. There was a coalition that was building in the 2024 election at this time that you hadn't seen since Obama. It just wasn't for Kamala Harris. It wasn't for Kamala Harris. That's what the catalyst data that I was talking about in the last podcast showed, is that the Obama coalition that was building in the summer of 2024 was Obama's coalition that was building for Trump. The Obama coalition, what this guy says that we hadn't seen this since 2008. He's right. We hadn't seen this since 2008, but it wasn't for Kamala Harris. What we hadn't seen since 2008 was actually the coalition that Trump was building out of Asian Americans, out of Black Americans. He wasn't getting the majority of Black Americans, but he got enough. He got enough Asian Americans. He got enough Hispanic Americans. He got enough white Americans. He built a coalition by not focusing on identity, not focusing on the things that divide us. He was focusing on things that unite us, things that we can all agree on, no matter what our racial makeup is, or what our gender is, or who we want to sleep with, that focusing on the issues and the platform that people can get behind. Common sense stuff like close the border. I mean, it's common sense that it was Trump that was building the Obama coalition, not Kamala Harris. And these people were so surprised. We were listening to Chris Salissa at the end of the last podcast break down some of these numbers from the Catalyst data. I just want you to listen to a little bit more of this.
In 2024, 18 to 29-year-olds voted 6% overall. All 18 to 29-year-olds voted 6% more Republican than they had in 2020. But if you look at young people of color, it's even more striking. Latino 18 to 29-year-olds, again, 12 points more Republican than they had been 4 years ago. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, 9 more points Republican than they had been 4 years ago. Urban 18 to 29-year-olds, those living in cities, 9% more Republican than they had been 4 years ago. So you had men and young people, particularly men of color and young people of color moving pretty heavily toward Donald Trump. And what you didn't have to counteract that, which could have helped Harris win, was women overall moving more toward her. Women overall moved 1 point more toward Trump when you compare how he did in 2024 to 2020. 1 point, which is basically marginal. But I will say, Latina women moved 7 points more to Trump. Asian American and Pacific Islander women, 4 points more to Trump.
This is very interesting. I want you to listen to what he says. So, Asian women, Kamala Harris is selling herself as a black woman, but she's really biracial. I mean, she really has more, Asian culture than black culture. Her mom is from India, raised her. Her mother was the most influential person in her life, and she's hiding her Asian ancestry and only promoting her black ancestry, which wasn't. There's all this controversy. That's why Trump understood this problem that they had with this identity issue. That's why he went to the NABJ in Chicago with all the black journalists, and he drops that bomb. Well, she says she's black, but I never remember her. It was genius. It was genius because he's playing into this rot in the Democratic Party about identity politics. He plays into it. He throws that meat out there, and he knew that a lot of people in the black community didn't really, consider Kamala Harris as being black. So she's hiding the Asian part so she can, promote more of her black ancestry so she can get the black vote and be sold as a black woman, which, but Asian women, not Asian men, Asian women voted for Trump. They went more for Trump. Women overall moved 1 point more toward Trump when you compare how he did in 2024 to 2020. 1 point, which is basically marginal. But I will say Latina women moved 7 points more to Trump. Asian American and Pacific Islander women, 4 points more to Trump. Asian women, 4 points to Trump. Hispanic women, 7 points for Trump. Women, these are women. Instead of having a Zoom call where you're focusing on black women and white women and white dudes and black dudes, maybe you should be focusing on bringing all women together. Maybe if Kamala Harris would have, won more Hispanic women and more Asian women, may have made a difference, but she lost Asian women and Hispanic women. I mean, I hope I'm getting through to some people, but I know that this is never going to change in the Democratic Party. And like I said in the last podcast, there's getting ready to be a huge civil war in the Democratic Party. And I think largely over this issue. Black women, 0 change between 2024 and 2020. White women, 0 change between. So look, white women and black women were together. White women and black women, and no change from 2020. They were together. They just lost the Asian women and they lost Hispanic women. 2024. So you had basically, this really was, I think the story of this election was men, young people, yes, but really if you dig into it, people of color. It is women of color, Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic women in particular, because black women didn't really move, but Asian Pacific Islander and Latino women. Hispanic and black men, Hispanic and Asian Pacific Islander, 18 to 29-year-olds. All of that, this non-white vote. Remember, Donald Trump won 1 in 3 non-white voters. I mean, this is a stunning number. It's a stunning number. It's a stunning number that Donald Trump won, that everybody says that his campaign is all about advancing, white people's agenda and his political success is driven by, white people's animosity towards brown people. And that's the only people he appeals to are white people who are racist. He won 1/3 of all people of color who voted in 2024 voted for Donald Trump. That's the Obama coalition. That's the Obama coalition. It's what the guys on Pod Save America, who were speech writers, who worked in the Obama campaign back in 2008 and worked in his administration, who these guys are. I want them to explain on Pod Save America what the Catalyst numbers show. Take a listen.
We have been saying since November that we can't draw too many decisive conclusions about what happened in the election based only on the exit polls, that we have to wait for the gold standard data, which comes from two places, Catalyst and Pew. We finally got the Catalyst data, and the headlines out of it were as unsurprising as they were depressing. Kamala Harris lost critical ground with young voters and people of color, especially men of color, especially young men of color. In fact, she gained ground only with married white women, and not by much.
1 point. One point.
Yeah, it's 1 point.
Yes. And it's not clear what they rounded up from to get there.
And super voters in this report, which are people who voted in the last 4 elections. She did 1 point better with Biden among the super voters, but she lost a lot of ground among the irregular voters, people who have voted in just a few of the last 4 elections. As Amy Walter and Carrie Dan at the Cook Political Report put in their headline, the main conclusion from this report is, quote, the Obama coalition turned into the Trump coalition. Ouch.
The Obama coalition turned into the Trump coalition. So when Man Bun here says that we haven't seen anything like this since 2008, he's absolutely right. You hadn't seen anything like this since 2008. It was just for Trump and not Kamala Harris, because she was a horrible candidate. She never should have been the nominee at all. There should have been, if you guys had anybody better, you should have put her up, but you couldn't put her up because of identity politics. You couldn't put anyone else up to challenge her because of identity politics. And it hurt you. It hurt you bad, and it will continue to hurt you. This article came out last week and it went viral. This is the article where it talked about how the Democrat strategists are held up in some schwanky hotel eating lobster rolls, talking about, how are we going to reach men with video games? We need to advertise on video games. And they're going to spend, $20 million on an effort to study the syntax and language that men are using to go viral, is what they say in this article. So this was the article that everyone's been talking about. If you look at the picture from the article, it's a picture of a Tim Walz and Harris poster with freedom on it, and it's ripped to shreds. So it's a ripped up Harris Walz poster. 6 months later, Democrats are still searching for the path forward. The party's standing is startlingly low after a defeat that felt like a cultural rejection. What comes next? And this article is written by Shane Goldmacher. So this went viral last week for many reasons. This is a great article. I don't have time to get into it, but people started putting out all these memes that were focusing on their plan to spend $20 million to learn how to speak to young men because they have such a man problem. They don't only have a man problem, as you just heard. They have a problem with Hispanic women. They have a problem with Asian women. They have a problem with people of color. They have a problem with men. But this was funny. Articles like this in Twitchy, take a look. Failing the testosterone, emasculated. Come on, guy. Failing the testosterone, emasculated Democrats spending $20 million to learn to speak to men. And it's a picture of Tim Walz. The entire reason that Tim Walz was put on the ticket. So you pick Kamala Harris and you try to force her to be the nominee and run this campaign on joy and, try to, change her poll numbers and make her the most popular candidate ever and try to sell that to the American people. And then you put this guy on the ticket. Why was Tim Walz put on the ticket? Because of identity politics. Tell me, people, if you think a black woman is such a great leader and they're better leaders than anyone, then why didn't Kamala Harris pick a black woman as her running mate? Run 2 black women. 2 black women's better than one. If black women are so, inherently great leaders. Why didn't Kamala Harris, as a black woman, choose a black woman as her running mate? Why did she have to pick a white man? She picked a white man for electability, which makes no sense at all. Because if you're picking Tim Walz for electability, then why are you putting the most unpopular candidate that you can put on the front of the ticket, at the head of the ticket? If electability is what you're thinking about, you're thinking, I gotta put Tim Walz on the ticket for electability, but I'm gonna put at the head of the ticket someone who's completely unelectable? That makes no sense at all. It makes no sense at all. You remember what Tim Walz says recently about why he was put on a ticket? Take a listen.
I knew I was on the ticket. I would argue because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota.
No, that's not why you were put on the ticket.
I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And,
wow.
And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of the.
No, you didn't get enough. No, you didn't get enough. Listen to what he's saying. I was put on a ticket to give white men permission to vote for the black woman. So they're not thinking about who's best for the job, who's gonna help me win strategically. I mean, there was no threat of Kamala Harris losing Minnesota. Josh Shapiro could have helped her win Pennsylvania. I doubt it, but at least it would have made sense to put Josh Shapiro on the ticket. But he was his identity. He was a little bit too Jewy for the ticket. So he put the white guy on the ticket to code talk to the other white men to give them permission. This is why they have problems. They have serious problems because of this identity politics. And it is a huge problem. And it's just no wonder why the Democratic Party is bleeding men, and that men don't want to vote for them anymore. This was a podcast, Mark Halper's podcast just the other day, and this is a conversation with Jonathan Allen. He's the author of the book Fight. We listened to a clip from him in the last podcast. This is his co-author. I don't remember who this guy is, but this woman is a Democrat progressive. She's one of the people who are promoting Bernie Sanders and AOC. And this is just a white woman who is a Democrat voter, and she's sitting with him. This guy may just be a voter as well that's sitting on with them, and they're talking about the Democratic Party, the issues with the Democratic Party. And I want you to listen to what Jonathan Allen says here.
Touch real quick also on something that Nomi said in response to Sue, which is about identity politics. The Democrats will play identity politics with their presidential candidate at their own peril. Yep. Nobody.
Look, I want you to notice that when he says this, that both of these two women start nodding in agreement right away, because now Bernie Sanders came out. I'm going to play a clip in the next podcast where we talk about Bernie Sanders challenging this. This is how I know they're getting ready to have this huge civil war in the Democratic Party over this. But again, she's Bernie Sanders, AOC voter. This woman, if you watch the whole podcast, she's not a progressive and does not see herself aligned with Bernie Sanders. So she's like another wing of the party from the progressive Bernie Sanders. And they both shake their heads in agreement when Jonathan Allen says that we need to stop playing identity politics, that Democrats, that they can continue to play identity politics to their own peril, that this is hurting them. Listen.
Something that Nomi said in response to Sue, which is about identity politics. The Democrats will play identity politics with their presidential candidate at their own peril. Yep. Nobody, like when you get to a general election, you're talking about swing voters in swing states, much less everybody else. And I actually think it's a broader category that say to themselves, I just want to see the best candidate. I just want the president who's going to protect my family.
I just want the best candidate. I just want the best candidate. I just want the best agenda. I just want someone who's going to close the border. I just want someone who's going to enact economic policies that are going to help working class people. I just want someone that's going to curb the crime. I just want someone who is going to try to end the wars all over the world. That's all I want. I don't care if they're blue. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're green. I just want someone I don't care if they're man. I don't care if they're female. I just want someone who's going to be effective at their job. Is the way voters, pragmatic voters who are usually these swing voters that are just thinking pragmatically about the election and not about how good it feels to have a woman or how good it feels to have a gay man or how good it feels. What is it? Why do I care that Joe Biden put a black woman on the Supreme Court who can't even say what a woman is? How does that make me feel good and that advance me as a black man that Joe Biden put a black woman on the Supreme Court who can't even say what a woman is? That's not how people make decisions. And people shouldn't make decisions based on children, make decisions based on that stuff, not functioning, pragmatic adults.
Play identity politics with their presidential candidate at their own peril.
Yep.
Nobody, like when you get to a general election, you're talking about swing voters in swing states, much less everybody else. And I actually think it's a broader category that say to themselves, I just want to see the best candidate. I just want the president who's going to protect my family and make the economy as strong as it possibly can be. And I don't care if that person is white, black, orange, green, male, female, whatever. And if the Democrats think about their candidates that way that they have thought about social policy, which is a different question.
Right.
I think there are times when you look at social policy and you might say to yourself, this is a group that needs help, or like the Americans with Disabilities Act, for example, you would say, well, that's, there's some identity politics in that. When you're talking about a presidential candidate, it's the best candidate, not what they look like or what their background is.
I don't think, I think that he's just, saying as a presidential candidate, I think it's even bigger than that. I don't even think that it's just, people are sick of this. They're sick of it on the local level. They're sick of the fire chief in LA, getting a job as the chief of the fire department because she's a lesbian and hiring all these other lesbians. It didn't matter if it's a presidential candidate or someone on the city council. People are sick of identity politics. People are sick of it. This was the ad. Everyone started sharing this ad that Kamala Harris ran, trying to get men to vote for her in the last election, and how stupid this ad is. Take a look.
Man enough. I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
Wow. They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
I can't believe this didn't work. I can't believe that Kamala Harris bled men, voters. I can't believe that this did not work, but nobody cares. And again, going back to this ad or this article from Shane Goldmacher, them, held up and exclusive swanky hotels eating lobster rolls, trying to figure out how to talk to man. That's how you come up with ads like this. That's how you come up with ads like this by a bunch of women and gay dudes in a hotel with a whiteboard strategizing. What should we do? We should have a bunch of men talking about how they, fight bears and all this stuff and vote for women. I can't believe this didn't work. But this is what you guys really believe. I played this clip in the last podcast of Cassidy Hutchinson, and when she was on her book tour saying that we have too many men in power, that the men, that we need to get rid of all of these men and we need more women in power because the men are ruining everything. And I played this one because I told you in the last podcast that she made this comment while she was on this book tour several times. Let's listen again.
We need more women in government. We need more women in politics. We need to be able to combat these because men have been running this country for too long and it's clearly not working. Men have been running this country for too long and it's clearly not working. We need more women. That women are superior to men is the idea that she's thinking. I found the clip where she said this on The View
She goes deeper into her philosophy on why we need more women and that how men have ruined everything. And I want you to notice how she's supported by these women on The View, that this is a broad view among liberal women who are Marxist feminists.
We have to at some point say enough is enough. We have to. And, you know, men have been running America since our founding, and it's not going that well. So I think having strong female voices. The world.
Look how they all nod. They all nod. I want you to look at this one, how she nods. They all nod in agreement that men have been running everything. She says the country, and Joy says, no, the world. Men have been running the world, and they've ruined it. It wasn't Marxist feminism that ruined it. It was the men, particularly the white men.
Running America since our founding, and it's not going that well. So I think that having strong female voices.
They all nod. You have them applauding in the audience. They all nod in agreement that men have been running everything and things are not going that well. And she goes further into this.
Since our founding, and it's not going that well. So I think that having strong female voices. The world. This is specific. We look at Congress. Congress is dominated by men too. Yeah. And slowly that is becoming, the gender gap is closing a little bit, but we're still dominated by men. Yeah. We have to ask ourselves why.
They're so scared to lose their jobs.
They're scared to lose their jobs. We also need to have collective conversations as a nation to elect responsible people to office, to elect more women to office, because
so she's speaking as it's synonymous that women are inherently responsible. Listen to what she says. We need to elect more responsible people. We need to elect more women, that women are more responsible than men.
To lose their jobs, we also need to have collective conversations as a nation to elect responsible people to office, to elect more women to office, because, again, not just in our case, but Liz Cheney is an amazing example.
Liz Cheney
sacrificed her career and put her country before party when so many people were willing to do that.
We need to elect more women like Liz Cheney. Do you understand? And it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans that they are feminists. They are radical feminists that believe that men that need to be brought down and women need to be elevated, and they wonder why they are losing men. They wonder why men gravitated over towards Republican Party and Trump and people that are not playing all this identity politics. They wonder why. They wonder why commercials like this, ads like this isn't working. They're going to figure it all out and spend $20 million figuring it out. So the Trump coalition was the Obama coalition. And I told you in the last podcast that I was going to explain just how the Obama coalition, the broad coalition of many different types of people from many different types of backgrounds all came together and elected Barack Obama as president in 2008. And again, a lot of Republicans, we'll get into this in the next podcast, but the Republican brand was in the toilet in 2008 because of George Bush and the Bush administration. They had so driven the brand of the Republican Party down so much that even Republicans that had voted for George Bush twice voted for Barack Obama. Barack Obama sold himself as a conservative Democrat. We're going to get into this in the next podcast. He sold himself as a conservative Democrat who believed in traditional marriage, one man and one woman, because God is in the mix, is what he said. He believed in secured borders. He challenged Hillary Clinton on her vote for the Iraq war and said that he was the peace candidate, all this stuff that he sold himself on to build that coalition. And he sold himself, as anti-establishment, post-racial. You remember the speech he gave in 2004 when he was first introduced to us as the new product rolled out. at the DNC in 2004. There isn't a white America or a black America, that we are the United States of America. That's how he sold himself in 2008. And we got there, things changed. So we're going to talk about how this coalition that Trump built, how he basically stole the Obama coalition. This is some more information. I think this information comes from the Catalyst data as well, but it's in the article by Shane Goldmacher. Take a listen to Megyn Kelly here.
Very interesting piece in the New York Times by Shane Goldmacher over the weekend. It was on Sunday. How Donald Trump has remade America's political landscape. And here are a couple highlights from it. One of the clearest way to see how he's transformed the political landscape is to look at what we're calling the triple trending counties in America. Those of it that have steadily marched in each party's direction in the Trump era. The results are stark. All told, Trump has improved every single election in 1,433 of the nation's 3,100 counties, even as he lost in 2020. He was improving his margin.
Because he didn't lose in 2020. Can we stop this? 2020 was rigged, people. There's no way. If you look, you're looking at this data now. The same people that tell you that the 2020 election was the safest and fairest ever are the same people that told you that Biden was sharp as a tack. And you can believe that if you want to. But Trump did not lose in 2020. 2020 was rigged. Just like 2000 was rigged. I don't have any problem saying that that the 2000 election was rigged. It was rigged by Catherine Harris and Jeb Bush in Florida. The 2004 election, that it was rigged. I don't have any problem saying that. But 2020 was rigged as well. Absolutely. And the data just shows that. It's impossible. It is impossible for all of these people to drop off. These people to come and vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and then just disappear 4 years later. It's impossible.
33 of the nation's 3,100 counties, even as he lost in 2020. He was improving his margin in these 1,400 counties, almost half of the counties. Democrats have expanded their vote share continuously in 57 counties. So Trump has done steadily better in 1,433, the Democrats in 57. Look at all this red for the listening audience. It's a map of the United States covered in red. Just you take a red can of paint and you throw it at an empty map of the U.S. and you'll see that.
Trump he has completely remade the electoral map. And he did so by taking the Obama coalition. He took the Obama coalition. That's how he did this.
Looks like a couple of chicken scratches that, like, if you gave a rodent and told it to run across the United States and make a mark wherever it could, you might get the same result. Like, I can count the number of blues I'm looking at, and it's just a couple. Of the 1,433 triple trending Trump counties, only 3 had a median household income above $100,000. Only 3.
So he's not only remade the electoral map, he's reshaped the way that people look at the Republican Party. The Republican Party is viewed as a working class party now. I mean, it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We're going to get into this article in the next podcast, but now even Democrats are sick of Obama and Obama people, like David Plouffe. Here. His shine is gone after what just happened. And that's why he's mad. That's why he went on the record with Tapper and Alex Thompson, because he's pissed off because his credentials as a guru are gone. Nobody sees you as a guru anymore. So this article came out a few days ago. Obama world loses its shine in a changing, hurting Democratic Party. Obama White House and campaign alumni have been setting the course for the Democratic Party for years. After 2024, more Democrats want to see that change. They want Obama and his people gone. That it was Obama who was the one working behind the scenes that made Joe Biden the nominee in 2020. On Meet the Press this weekend, on their roundtable discussions, they're talking about this, and Jay Johnson, who's one of the guests here, he just says something that blows my mind. I want you to listen to what Jay Johnson says here.
So where do Democrats go from here, Jay?
The Democratic Party, unfortunately, is perceived by many as a party of identity politics, open borders, and political correctness. If I were in charge, I would survey as many people as possible who voted for first Bernie Sanders and then Donald Trump to find out what their issues are.
Wow. Listen to what he's saying. That Jay Johnson is saying that the Democratic Party is viewed as nothing more than identity politics, open borders, and political correctness. That's what he says. That's the way the Democratic Party is viewed. Identity politics, open borders, and political correctness. Now, what I would do, Jay Johnson says that what I would do if I was running the Democratic Party, I would talk to as many people that voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016, from the Bernie bros to Trump. The people that were Bernie Sanders that went to Trump, I would talk to them. And then what would you do, Jay?
Who voted for first Bernie Sanders and then Donald Trump to find out what their issues are and what they really care about. And I think that's the key.
That intersection may just be the key.
It may just be the key. It's so funny. Instead of looking at the people that voted for Bernie Sanders in 2008 and then vote for Trump, I would be looking at the people that voted for Obama. I would be looking at the people and talking to the people that voted for Obama in 2008 and then voted for Trump 3 times, like me. I'll tell you what the problem is. I voted for this guy. I fell for this guy's con in 2008. Only once. I didn't vote for him in 2012. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'll tell you what's up. But he says Bernie Sanders, that we should go back and talk to the people that voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and then voted for Trump. Well, Bernie Sanders would have been the nominee in 2016 if it wasn't for the meddling by the DNC to make Hillary Clinton the nominee. And then in 2020, it was Obama who got in there and changed everything and talked everyone into exiting the race and Clyburn support Joe Biden before the South Carolina primary. That the reason that Joe Biden was the nominee in 2020 and who decided to run again and left Democrats in this situation is because of Obama. He was running everything behind the scenes. After Joe Biden drops out, Obama was trying to run everything from behind the scenes. And Democrats are now speaking out. You read this article, which we'll get into some of it in the next podcast, that Democrats are now sick of Obama, that Obama is a loser, that the stench of Obama, that the Democratic Party is being dragged down by the Obama and his people. And we want Obama gone. There's an article. I mean, this article is talked about. Let me see what we got going on here. This is on Morning Joe, and they're talking about the Obama fatigue in the Democratic Party.
Following President Trump's victory last year, some Democrats are beginning to openly criticize former President Barack Obama's strategists and consultants, who, of course, have played a huge role in the direction of the party in recent years.
Obama himself,
so-called
not
Obama
just the strategist.
Made up of less politically engaged voters, younger voters, and voters of color, largely shifted toward Trump in 2024. As NBC News notes, Obama himself remains a force in the party, filling stadiums and commanding the attention of major donors. But even the former president's luster was showing signs of fading last fall. When the 2028 presidential election arrives, it will be 20 years since Obama's first victory. At that point, more voters will have come of age in the era of Donald Trump than in the era of Obama. And Jonathan, it's a great point. Like, first of all, there is this idea. I know there's been some resentment in the Democratic Party that Obama himself kind of only shows up at the end. He's the closer in these elections, but I think
he closed nothing
and say, well, that's why, because he's sort of scarce, that's what makes his appearances so meaningful. So let's set that aside. But it's more about, I think some of the people who work for him have come under a lot of fire lately. But it's also, in this case, it's more about the coalition of voters he built to get put together, which at the time, some Democrats thought, well, this could be the new permanent Democratic Party. That has clearly not been the case. It feels like those voters very quickly got taken for granted.
Well, I look back on the Obama years, and he won in 2008, but then they lost the majorities in the House and then in the Senate. It seems like when the midterms came, the Obama luster wasn't enough to push that coalition out.
There's a reason why. I'm going to explain all this about what happened in 2009, what they did, how they incrementally, like I told you in the last podcast, this is what happened to Kamala Harris in this last election and what happened to the Democrats in this last election didn't just come out of nowhere. This has been a trend going back to 2009, quite frankly, that this has been a trend, a slow trend incrementally of them losing these voters. And now, almost 20 years later, it's a huge problem because it's been happening incrementally. This trend is what I've been explaining to you. Just have one more clip. This was Obama when, after he had initially tried to prevent Kamala Harris from getting the nomination, he was advising Biden not to endorse her. He was promoting a open process after Biden dropped out, and he knew that she couldn't win. Articles were written where Obama knew Kamala Harris was going to lose. He's a smart guy. He's not stupid. He knew that she was unpopular and that she was going to lose. But after he saw that the black women were getting behind her and that the white women, Democrats were getting behind her, and the black dudes and the white dudes, and Clyburn's endorsing, Biden went ahead and endorsed, everybody's endorsing, so I got to get on board. And then he endorses, I'm going to do what I can, even though I know that she's going to lose. And then he goes to this campaign event in Philadelphia and he starts speaking to the brothers. He says that he chides the brothers because the brothers are not coming out for Kamala Harris the way they did for him. Listen to what he says.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
So we haven't seen, this is what he's saying, we haven't seen the coalition come out for Kamala Harris as the same coalition as when I was running. No, that coalition is Trump's coalition now. That's not Kamala Harris's coalition. The coalition that came out for you when you were running, that's Trump's coalition now. That's not your coalition.
In all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
The brothers ain't coming out.
So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly.
To the brothers.
And say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you.
Grew up like you, knows you. She grew up in Canada, bro. She don't know nothing about the struggles of the brothers. And Democrats have been losing the brothers. It's been a trend going back to 2008 when you were in office. That in 2012, you got less vote than you did in 2008. You got less of the brother. Incrementally, it's showing only by a few points, maybe 3 points. They don't show 2008 here, but he got about 98% of the brothers in 2008. And then incrementally, when he ran for re-election, it's down to 95%. And then Hillary Clinton lost 5 points on the brothers. Incrementally, it's only 5 points, but if you go back to 2008, that's 8 points right there. And then Joe Biden only got 86% of the brothers. Incrementally from 2016, that's only 4 points. But if you go back to 2012, I mean, you're at 12 points. That's 12 points. Incrementally, the brothers have been, and then Kamala Harris got 79% of the brothers. Yeah, that's you're almost at 20% drop from 2024 from 2008 when he got 98%. But this is a trend. It's a trend that the brothers are not voting for the Democratic Party. It's a huge problem. We're going to talk more about it in the next podcast. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you guys on Friday.